Hello everybody, welcome to this edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Like we talk about anything and everything that is geek, whether it be TV, comics, movies, and video games. And this week I'm going to discuss a topic that been kind of nagging at me for the last year or so, and I kind of touched on a little bit in a Geek Corner minute, but I just didn't have the time to completely go full force into it and elaborate on it. But today I'm going to elaborate on a little bit more. And in said Geek Corner minute, I ask y'all a question. Why is it that DC and Marvel can't seem to stay satisfied with their characters as they are? And I didn't get really elaborate on it, but today I'm elaborate on it. And what I mean by that is, it just seems like that they're constantly changing these characters way too much. First there was it all started with the New 52. And y'all have heard me gripe about New 52 so much that sometimes it's kind of become repetitive, and that's why I don't talk about it as much as I used to. Y'all know how much I despise New 52, about how it's just completely screwed up and tore apart everything we know. Of course, it almost looks like it's trying to, I'm going to admit this, it looks like things are almost trying to revert back to classic DC a little bit, just subtly here and there, but I'm not so sure, because they keep trying to New 52 every time. It looks like it's trying to revert. It's like they try to New 52 up something else. But like I said, they just strip down the characters, strip down the universe, and just make up mess as they go along that is completely against what we know is against the fabric of the characters. Basically, I'm gonna say, I've probably said this before on the show. If I haven't, I'm gonna say it now. It's like they Marvelized them. All except for Green Lantern and maybe Batman. But it's like they've Marvelized everything. And not too long after the New 52's success, Marvel decides it wants to rip off DC again. And what do? They do their own version of New 52. Marvel Now, where you got Superior Spider-Man and Hulk wearing armor and all this screwy mess going on with the Marvel heroes. They're like they Marvelized Marvel. It's such a thing as possible. It's like DC ripped off Marvel's universe by making everybody almost like a Marvel character. Now Marvel has ripped off DC's ripping off of Marvel, and they've changed everything again. And it's like they completely changed the fabric of the characters, who try to almost keep them the same, and yet try to change little subtle nuances about them. One of which is Nick Fury, and I think they've changed Nick Fury. The way they first launched the Marvel Now, it looked like they changed Nick Fury to make him look like, instead of the character you've known for 50, you knew who he looked like for like 70 something years. He all of a sudden looks like Samuel L. Jackson, the Ultimate version of. It's almost like the Ultimate's version of Nick Fury has come over into the regular universe, or as I said before, it's like they're trying to turn it almost halfway into the cinematic universe and change him. But I don't think that's the case anymore, because I think recently the Nick Fury that everybody knows reappeared in the series Original Sin. I think he reappeared, like he's been in hiding all these years or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Marvel, to tell you the truth. I know a few little things of what they've done with Marvel Now, but that was one thing I thought they had changed. And yet I don't think they changed it anyway. It's all so confusing. If somebody can give me an idea of what's going on, let me know, because I ain't been able to pick up a comic book in a while. But I've kind of steered clear of Marvel, to tell you the truth. But I only know of what I hear in the media of what's going on in Marvel, of how they change the characters and everything, how they change their appearances, how they change stuff about them, how they change their appearances and everything. And I was like, why you got to do this? Particularly, I've protested against like Superman getting armor that he don't need, and then the Hulk got armor that he doesn't necessarily need. I said, one that claims to be the strongest there is, need a suit of Iron Man armor for. Still boggling my mind why they did that. But now they're about to change everything again with this. I think was it Avengers Now initiative or something like that. Avengers Now stuff. It's like they're fixing to completely mess everything again. And I've already said about this. Y'all have already heard my shows about my Geek Corners about gimmicks overload and stuff like that. And why the folks keep trying, and Geek Corner man about why are they promoting this gimmick so hard. If y'all haven't seen them, check it out. I go a little even more about how this is all a gimmick, and it's just like it's being force fed. But now they're doing this whole thing where they're just they're changing the rosters around. It's like all of a sudden Thor is all of a sudden going to be unworthy to wield Mjolnir, and some stranger, some woman character that we probably had, it appears we hadn't ever seen before, is suddenly going to take up the hammer of Thor and be Thor, which to me don't make no sense. I'll explain more in a minute. Then all of a sudden Steve Rogers is going to has suddenly they've announced that he's going to lose the super soldier serum at age 75 years. And who they're going to pick to replace him? The Falcon. And then you have they're changing Iron Man to where he, instead of just being being like a egotist and almost a cross between Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor, he's going to almost lean more towards being Lex Luthor, in that he's going to almost be a villain. He's almost going to be like a mad scientist villain and be even less likable than he already is. I mean, what's with that? And then the Hulk, oh, good gracious. I probably mentioned on another, I think I mentioned on the gimmick show that he's almost going to have the attitude of Ra's al Ghul. And that Tony Stark, Mr. Mad Scientist, Lex Luthor, is going to inject him with the extremist thing, and is going to give him like a super intellect. The Hulk. Going to give him like a super intellect. And then, in thinking with this said intellect, he's all of a sudden going to come to the conclusion that all gamma radiation is evil and needs to be eliminated. Sounds a lot like Ra's al Ghul, doesn't it? And in doing so, he's going to come in direct conflict with ones like his allies, such as She-Hulk, Red Hulk, and the Rick Jones version of Abomination, A-Bomb. He's going to come directly in conflict with his friends in an attempt to eradicate all gamma radiation. When did it suddenly become popular to turn your characters into less respectable ones? I mean, and not to mention do stuff that don't even make any sense at all. Oh, and another thing, kill off Nick Fury. I forgot about that. Turn him into somebody that's really not respectable, and then kill him off by having the Winter Soldier behead him. I know, spoiler alert, but you're going to do that to turn him into a murderer, and then have him be brutally slaughtered after 75 years in comics. I mean, and then, but I said it don't make any sense at all to do this kind of stuff. It's like you're completely ruining who the characters are. You're completely ruining it. And then doing this stuff that, I mean, like I said, you turn Nick Fury essentially into a villain. Then you turn Stark into a villain, essentially a villain, who, as somebody said, looks like his armor is sponsored by Apple. And then you're going to have Hulk turn into a villain, essentially. A villain. How is that supposed to be Marvel's superheroes? They're supposed to be superheroes, and they're turning them into super villains. I mean, what's with that? Why are you doing that? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm gonna say it. Having changed Captain America over to being Falcon, having Falcon change over, take over the role of Captain America. I misworded that. Having Falcon take over the role of Captain America. He's not exactly the best choice for the job. I mean, he's been his sidekick for years, but why Falcon? I mean, that's not. I'm gonna say it. That's not who Falcon is. He spent years being the Falcon. Years being the Falcon. I mean, I know some folks will try to say, "Well, ain't that like Robin and Dick Grayson taking over Batman?" Not necessarily, because they did that when Bucky took over being Captain America. They essentially did just that. It's like they did the whole sidekick taking over for him thing. But Falcon wasn't necessarily a sidekick. He was a partner. He was more like his partner than his sidekick. But I don't see how it makes any sense for Falcon to take over for him. I mean, that just seems kind of out of character for him. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Maybe he might turn out to be a good Cap, but to me, it just don't make sense. And finally, the one that don't makes even less sense for Marvel to do the changeover is Thor. I mean, and I know a lot of folks will say, how does it not make sense for a woman to be able to pick up the hammer? I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what I'm saying is, female characters have picked up the hammer before. One being Wonder Woman. And I don't know if anybody out there has read DC versus Marvel. When Wonder Woman went up against Thor, she beat him, and she took up his hammer and got his powers. And I know it says on the hammer, it says, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." That's just ancient script. It's just ancient script. I mean, it was wrote from a male's point of view, but it could be for anyone. It's proof positive it could be for anyone. Any man or woman or even child could pick up that hammer and get the power of Thor. But why would they become Thor? That's my question. Just because you get the power of Thor, that doesn't make you Thor. It might give you a little extra battle armor. It might make you look like him. Might give you, like I said, give you the helmet, give you the arm, or give you some armor, cape, whatever. But that doesn't necessarily make you Thor. It gives you the power and the appearance of Thor. It does not make you Thor. And the reason I say that is, Thor isn't dead in the comics. They're saying that Thor is going to be a female. And the fact, I'm going to say, they didn't handle that very well. The fact that when the woman picks up the hammer, it changes the script from "if he be worthy" to "if she be worthy." Personally, I'm gonna pick out two things wrong with that scene. One, that was to me that was a cop out, and I say it was a cop out because it's almost like they're trying to solidify it as this is here to stay. It may be, you never know, but it's just, I mean, also the fact that the other thing I found wrong with it, why was the thing rode upside down? Why was it rode upside down on the hammer? That was a weird thing. I know it's nitpicky, but the thing is, the fact that the script changed is because a woman picked it up. To me, that was poorly handled. I mean, does that matter? That the script had to change because a woman picked it up? No. It didn't have to. Just because it's wrote in an ancient thing that is emphasis on a man, doesn't mean that a woman can't pick it up. meaning a woman can't take over those powers and those abilities. Because clearly they can. Because, like I said, look at Wonder Woman in Marvel versus DC. Or DC versus Marvel, rather. Look at that. Look what happened there. She got the power of Thor. She dropped it to make it a fair fight. But when she got the powers of Thor. But she did not become Thor. And that's what doesn't make sense about this role change they had in DC. In Marvel, rather. My mistake. In Marvel. Because the fact that the man Thor is still alive, and yet you've got another character claiming to be Thor that is whether it be a man or a woman, it still wouldn't make sense. Whether they had changed this to be a young boy, a young girl, an adult woman, or another man altogether, it hasn't got anything to do with the gender that's picking up the hammer. It's the fact that whoever picks up the hammer gets the power of Thor, but does not become him. Especially when said character is still alive. Because when they first announced that a woman was going to take over being Thor, they also showed that Thor, Odin's son, the character, is still alive. With a robot arm and a battle axe. Without his powers, yes. But Thor, the person, is still alive. How can you have two Thors, lest it be parallel? Let it be parallel universes or copy, doppelganger, whatever, clone. How can it be two Thors? How can you have Thor the person and Thor the mythical god? How can you have that at the same time? I mean, I like it that they're willing to go the route to having a woman with the power of Thor. But the fact that you are taking the name of Thor when the character is still alive, that doesn't make sense to me. And I don't know if there's anybody out there that agrees with me, but it just doesn't make sense that they are calling her Thor just because she has the hammer Mjolnir and has the powers and the appearance. It's as I said, just because you have the appearance of Thor and the power of Thor and his weapon doesn't make you Thor. Specifically, because of the fact that Thor, Odin's son, former bearer of Mjolnir, former bearer of the powers of lightning, former thunder god, is still alive and breathing. Though with a missing arm and a big battle axe now. Though he ain't got the power anymore, he is still Thor, son of Odin. He is still Thor, son of Odin, even though he is not the Asgardian god of thunder anymore. He's still alive. I mean, this woman, why don't they just call her the god of thunder or goddess of thunder? Why don't they just call her that? Why you gotta call her Thor? Why have they gotta call her Thor? She looks like Thor. Even though like I said, she looks like Thor. She has his powers. She has his weapon. But why are you calling her that when the other character's still alive? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, I think it's great they're taking. I actually like the idea that they're taking a chance with this, but it would make more sense if they just said that say she's a female Thor, but she's not. She's denying that name or whatever. Like she doesn't want to be called Thor. They just want to call her the goddess of thunder or something like that. Why don't they say that? Hey, it may be that Thor is still in the book somewhere. Who knows? But why are they saying that she's Thor? I mean, they've had female Thors in the past. I mean, they've had Thor Girl. And I said they've had Thor Girl, and like I said, they had which I think was Thor turned into a female actually. But still, it would make a whole lot more sense if they just said that a woman has picked up the powers of Mjolnir. and she's essentially assumed his role as the god of thunder. Why had they got to say she's Thor? It don't make sense to call her Thor when she's not Thor. She's not the character. She's not the person Thor. Of course, if she's a parallel version, she's a parallel universe version of Thor or something, then it makes sense then. If she's a parallel version of Thor that is a female, it makes more sense. But to say that, like, say if the character is Valkyrie, if the character is Brunhild, Valkyrie of Asgard, if she picked up the hammer and has the powers, she has the power of Thor. She's the goddess of thunder. She's the god of thunder, but she's still not Thor. Especially if the character is still alive. She's still Brunhild, Valkyrie, with the power of thunder, with the powers of Thor. The hammer said the hammer says, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy," or in this case now, if she be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. It doesn't say, "Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall become." If he be worthy, shall become Thor. It doesn't say that. It says it shall possess the power of Thor. It doesn't make sense that they're calling her Thor. It just doesn't make sense, honestly. It really doesn't. But as I said, they could have gone a better route than just saying. I said they could have gone a better route with that. They really could have. And I said maybe they'll change it. However the story's going to go, we'll just have to see how it pans out. You don't ever know. But right now, it just don't make sense to me. But as they're changing everything at Marvel, sorry for my rant, but me rambling right then. But moving right along with DC, while they're doing all this with Marvel, DC is getting ready to change some stuff too. I mean, they've got this whole stuff going on with the 5 years later and thing with futures in and all this mess. Now there's rumblings of something else happening big in 2015, and that they're going to have, this whole thing going on with, like they've announced, it said it's going to be an event called the Dark Side War, in which the New 52 universe is going to get caught in a battle between Anti-Monitor and Darkseid. And the way that everybody trying to make it look, they're going to do something about like a crisis again. And also I've heard rumors that they're going to do something where the pre-New 52 characters come into play. The classic, real DC universe is going to come into play somehow. And I said, there's just rumors and rumors that they almost sound like they're going to almost lean towards a partial reboot again. And my question is this: when's it going to stop? Why can't they just stay satisfied? I mean, it's interesting some of the things they do. I mean, I probably said on occasion, I gave the New 52 a chance. But as I further read the books, I got disillusioned really quick with this mess. I was like, you start off with some semblance of what they used to be, almost leaning to what they were and what they're supposed to be. But then you slowly but surely shut the coffin shut on it. Who they are, who they're supposed to be. You slowly but surely just hack away at what they were and make something else out of it. And that's why I got sick of it, and that's why I quit buying it. And I didn't like it from the start. But I did give it a chance. And then I saw the truth of what it all was, and then I just got enough. I ain't reading no more of this tripe, and I'm just going to stick with my old books or anything that looks any semblance of the Superman and the DCU I know. I mean, I read Smallville, even though that's like a fresh take on Superman, it's still more recognizable than the New 52. It's way more recognizable, and that's why I stick with that. Same with Superman Beyond. It's way more recognizable, and definitely more recognizable because this is the classic version of Superman that we know. Just in the future, just older. But it just irks me. It's like, when's it going to stop? When's enough going to be enough? They're going to keep rebooting everything. I mean, it's like, with all this stuff they're doing at Marvel, how long is this going to last? Because I know Marvel's track record. Everybody knows Marvel's track record. And same with DC, that they have a tendency that if something something starts getting stale, they have a tendency to either reboot that or retcon it. Because they almost done something that they're about that retcon. That, like, for example, Spider-Man. They retconned most of his life. In the one more day thing, they retconned most of his life just to save Aunt May. Just saves Aunt May. He threw away his whole relationship with Mary Jane Watson, his whole life with her. And it's ridiculous doing that, retcon everything. And the way they do in New 52, they basically retconned everything in that. They retconned 75 years. And they've almost done that with this Marvel Now crap. They retconned everything we know and love. And if when I talked to a lot of folks this week, they don't like it one bit. They said there's one guy I read. They said they read comics for 50 years and they've stopped. They said they stopped buying them because they don't recognize the characters in the comics anymore. And that's sad for somebody that 50 years reading comics for 50 years, and to suddenly give up buying it because that ain't what you growed up reading. It's just sad. And I know I've only been on Earth I've only been around for about 31 years, and I've been reading comics ever since I was like 5, and got more into them in my adult years, my late teens, early 20s. But it's just sad to have to quit buying mainstream DC books because that ain't what you growed up reading. It's just sad. And my word to DC and Marvel is this: leave the characters alone. Put everything back to the way it was and stop trying to one-up each other. Instead of one-up each other by what you can do, how further you can screw up your characters and do all this, why don't you concentrate on making a good story? Why don't you do that? Why don't you concentrate on trying to make good, outstanding stories instead of trying to one-up each other with gimmicks and reboots? The only losers in this fight are the fans, like me, like people that have been reading for 50 years. Whether it be 10 or 50, the only losers are the fans. The only ones you're going to lose are the fans that try to get used to something just for you to rip it out under and change it again. And as I said before about New 52, it's a force feeding. And the same with this one. It's crappy gimmick after crappy gimmick. Changing the characters, changing who they are, changing who they are, changing what they are, changing their personalities or something. That's not the way to go. What's the next thing we're going to see? Superman dressed up as Darth Vader next? And the only way he's Superman is that he has to wear a special suit? Or Captain America that or Captain America that looks nothing like how he's supposed to, or acts nothing like how he's supposed to. that was going to be in the future? I just don't get it. Why can't they just leave everything alone? Just concentrate on writing good stories with the characters that they got and the version of the characters that we know and love. You'll sell books. You'll sell books. I mean, it just... I'm speaking from a fan's point of view as well. I'm trying to speak for all the other fans out there that they're just ticked off by this. They're so tired of the constant reboots, and it just and the fact that this DC and Marvel just can't leave well enough alone. And but what do y'all think? Am I out of line? Am I out of line? Do y'all agree? I want let me know. As always, drop a comment in the comment box. I would love to hear what y'all have to say on this subject. And guess that's all for this week's edition of Mr. J's Geek Corner. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. May have offended anybody. But I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just, as I said before, I like the idea that they got a woman toting the hammer of Thor, but I just don't believe you should be calling them Thor when Thor is still alive. That's all I believe. I'm sorry if I offended y'all by saying that, but I hope this actually is a good story. I hope it's a genuinely good story, and I would love to see how it pans out. I really would. I'd love to see who's behind the helmet and the woman. I would love to see the woman who was deemed worthy enough to possess the power. I would love to see it. I genuinely would love to see it. But as I said, with Thor Odin's son still alive and well, wielding a battle axe, I just don't believe the character should be called Thor. God of Thunder, maybe. Goddess of Thunder, yeah. But not Thor. Because she's not Thor. Especially when Thor's still alive. But as I said, I'm sorry if I offended anybody by saying this, but that's just what I believe. And as always, if you have a comment about the show, drop me a comment in the comment box. Like, subscribe, tell and share with all your friends. And as always, you have an idea of a topic or something you want to hear me discuss on this show, drop me a comment in the comment box. I'm always looking for fresh new things to talk about on here. I would love to hear from you and hear your ideas. And you never know when it may be made into an episode of Mr. J's Geek Corner. Drop me a comment. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to hear your ideas. And again, I'm sorry if I offended anybody by this show. But as I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody. That's just what I believe. That's just what I believe. I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I'm not trying to offend anybody. As I said, I think it's a great idea that a woman they have given a woman the power of Thor. But I'm sorry if I offended anybody by what I said. I apologize in advance, and I apologize, and I'll see y'all next time.